What is it going on, guys? This is Raz from RazNQaz with a brand new series I'm starting alongside my Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke Omega Challenge. If you haven't seen that, bang, it's on the screen right now. Click that, go and watch that first, and come back to this video. I saw Quaz doing his own fact series, which at the moment is on Starter Pokemon, so bang, there you go again. There's that link to that video, go and check that out. I thought I'd do my own fact series. We're in a top 10 top 5 list of things related to Pokemon. So in this episode I'm doing top 10 weird Pokemon facts, all in my opinion, so please don't take this to heart, this is just purely my opinion. So quick note before we go into number 10, I am getting a better mic in the next week or so the quality will be a lot better. On my other video I was using my friend's mic, Quaz's, that's why it sounded so much better. So anyway, so at number 10, for anyone who's played the original Pokemon games, will remember the grumpy old man lining the street of Viridian City, right? Well, just in case you don't, I'm sure this will jog your memory. Yep, him, that person on the screen right now. Well, he would be there refusing to let the player pass until he had his coffee fix. Assumingly though, in the Japanese version, he's not a grumpy and stubborn old man sat there not letting you pass, but rather he's passed out from being drunk. This was changed in the Western version and across all Europe, as it was deemed to be unsuitable for the age group that the game was in. Which, in my opinion, when I first heard this, it made me laugh a little, because I remember why is there a man just passed out because he needs coffee to be awake and surely he'd sleep in his bed? But it actually turns out he is smashed out of space and in fact is drunk and will not move. So at number 9, so in my opinion, during my experience of the 5th generation of Pokemon, we have all got to know a special Pokemon that is being Audino, simply because it gives off a shitload of XP and you can level up like hell. But I bet you didn't know, you might have thought, this is something that amazed me when I first saw it, that there is a weird way to get your Pokemon from level 1 to actually level 87 of just one Pokemon battle, just by knocking out one Pokemon if the conditions are absolutely perfect. It's possible for a level 1 Pokemon to get all the way to 87 in a single battle, but the criteria is strict, however, and it must involve defeating a trainer-owned Blissey, because you get more XP off a trainer's Pokemon than you do a wild Pokemon. So you have to find a trainer that has a Blissey, as that gives off the highest experience yield, which basically means you get off the same amount of experience. And then you have to, your level 1 has to be an internationally traded Pokemon, which means from England to Japan or from Japan to England, as that will give it the biggest amount of gain and boost possible in the game. Then you also have to hold a lucky egg on it, a bunch of other factors as well just come into it, because in the amount of XP and all that stuff. But coming across this phenomenon is not by chance at all. It'll have to be set up. But I just thought it's really cool way from getting something to 8 to 87, and it was a bit weird and it fascinated me. In at number 8, and these are a little bit quicker than usual for facts, as I'm trying to keep this video to a certain amount of limit, is just a really quick fact, which is all, why is Splash a normal type move? Well, simply because in Japan, the useless move Splash is actually called Hop, and that is why it's a normal type move, not a water type move, and it can be used on Pokemon such as Hoppy, Hop, or Spoink. When I first, because I remember growing up and I was like, why the hell is Splash not a water type move, you stupid Magikarp, why is it normal? And it turns out that it's weird enough that it's actually a normal type move, because in Japanese it's called Hop. There's a little simple fact for you. So coming in at number 7, we have, now this is probably the ones that I knew, but I put on simply so people could know. The very first Pokemon from the beginning of time was a Rhydon. In the Pokedex, it's actually the 122nd Pokemon in the National Dex, should I say. And it is something of an unsung hero, to be honest, as it holds the distinction of being the very first Pokemon to be created. An honour, you could say, as it is incorrectly assumed to belong to Pikachu or Bulbasaur as the first Pokemon, but in fact it was a Rhydon. As a result, Rhydon was also the first Pokemon to be entered in Red and Blue with the index number 001. The dinosaur-like status found all throughout Kanto are thought to be despite Rhydon because of this reason. So throughout Kanto, all the dinosaur-like status is found throughout the whole game are based on Rhydon, since it was the first ever Pokemon created. At number 6, and this one really makes me laugh, in 2008 a team of Japanese scientists discovered a protein. It's a bit more complicated than just, oh, we've discovered a protein, but I'm absolute zero scientist to do with that, so basically it took them a long time, but they discovered the protein. They actually named this protein Pikachurin after, yes, you guessed it, Pikachu. its protein characteristics reminded them of Pikachu's speed and relationship with electricity. Now that is just freaking awesome, having a protein named after a Pokemon. It's a bit weird, but it's also pretty cool at the same time. So we're about halfway through now, and at number 5, I hope you're still with me and enjoying it. If you are, please leave a like. At number 5, there's something that you may not think would be such a which should be in a such child's based game, and that is that there is a zombie Pokemon in Pokemon, and I didn't know this till the other day, and it was so weird, and it just, yeah, so there are many weird Pokédex entries for Pokemon, but I will make a separate video on the top 10 weird Pokédex entries, because some of them are just hilarious. From the Eerie Ninja, or the whole host of that is Mr. Mime. The bug grass type Parasect, on the other hand, is an acknowledgement for being the creepiest Pokemon out there. So this is definitely, in my opinion, the creepiest Pokemon. As according to his Pokédex entry, since evolving from Paras, the Parasect, I don't know how to pronounce this word, I'll put it on the screen now, but it is spelled Tochukaso, I think, mushroom, on its back has grown to completely take over the host. So the mushroom itself has completely took over Parasect. So the mushroom is controlling the Paras inside the thing, and it is now a zombie shell of its former self. Hence the chilling lack of pupils on Paras's eyes. So Parasect is really just a Paras with a mushroom which has took over the host, which is Paras, and basically made it become a Pokemon zombie. Now that is just plain weird. So at number 4, we have something to do with the weight of Pokemon, and since it's related to Charizard, who's one of my favourite Pokemon, I just thought I'd throw it in there. The weight of Pokemon and all of the statistics that an individual Pokemon species has, two in particular are often overlooked by players because of the effect of the gameplay, which are height and weight, the two factors. The Pokédex always gives you an average height and weight for each Pokemon species, and there are some very surprising comparisons that can be drawn for them. For example, Arbok is listed 11 inches, I think it is, in thingy. I'm going to say 11 foot 6, which is like a snake-like Pokemon, and is assumed that is its assumed length, which happens to be the same for the legendary Pokemon Groudon. So many people think Groudon is a towering Pokemon, but in fact it's the same length as an Arbok, which is a bit weird. And many Pokemon assumes Charizard or Dragonite to be absolutely massive Dragon-type Pokemon, but in fact Charizard can go to the minimum of 5'7", which I found out was the same height as Lionel Messi. So a Pokemon is the same height as Messi, which is just weird. And weight is another weird factor, such as a Golem can actually weighs 100 kilograms more than a Rayquaza, and if you look at the size difference, that is just ridiculous. Golem used to be one big heavy son of a bitch. So anyway, in at number 3, now this is a fan-based idea, and growing up this really got to me, and I just thought I'd throw it in there. Now, if you remember the legend of the Truck and Mew, it sounds pretty dull, right? Truck and Mew, what sort of legend that? But the infamous Truck that appears in Generation 1 Pokemon games actually returns in the remix of Pokemon Fire and Leaf Green, so there's a picture of it. Yet again, there is no Mew under it, but the fan base was that Mew Truck was imported, and there was a Mew put under it. But interestingly, there's a lava cookie as a reward for the curious players who go there. If you are totally not familiar with it, the truck in Pokemon Red, Blue and Yellow, there was a mysterious truck which was parked in the area where the SS Anne was docked. It could only be reached by surf and cut without letting the SS Anne sail away, something that can be achieved with trading. It was a unique piece of scenery with no obvious purpose, leading to the intense speculation that is contained a secret item or Pokemon such as Mew. So when I growing up, I always went just in case my game for some reason had a Mew under the truck, and so did many fans. I remember growing up in school and everyone was like, "Oh, did you get the Mew under the truck?" And I was like, "What Mew under the truck?" And it turned out that they were just bullshitting, but at the time you really believed them. Like, I want Mew under the truck. Anyway, in at number 2. Now this is a bit of a weird one. If you think, "Oh, why is this your number 2?" But it really fascinated me. I think it's pronounced Guyana, is the location which is in South America, and in the Pokemon world it is known to be the habitat of Mew. It's based on a real world location, as Mr. Fuji, who created Pokemon, I think, that sounds really bad, I'm pretty sure he did, visited this faraway island as a small forecasted island which contained a wild looking Mew. So Mew was actually based on ideas from this. Mew was one of my favourite Pokemon growing up, as it was like the best legendary. And you're like, where did this come from? It turns out we actually came from a real life location. And this is briefly seen in Mewtwo Strikes Back, the first ever film, and there'll be pictures of it now. As an expedition team funded by Team Rocket was seen travelling through the jungle somewhere in the research of Mew. This really interests me, as this story always interests me, as I remember the scene of the film where they find the Mew engravement in the jungle, and it's always stuck to me since now. I always remember they find Mew, they pull these bushes back, and they see like an engraved. It's like the rare card version of Mew, and I had no idea that it come from real life locations. That was a bit weird. And finally, what you're all probably here to see, and some of you may have skipped to it, my number one fact. And it isn't the best, but please just ensure this is my own opinion. I'm not an expert on Pokemon, but I know relatively a lot. So this is my number one weird fact, and it is Mr. Three Question Marks. And you're like, who is Mr. Three Question Marks? Well, you remember him from Gold and Silver, your rival. He had a red hair, and he was a little thief who'd stay out the window and nabbed a Pokemon, who then became your rival. You always nicknamed someone insulting, like Poop Brains or Poop Head at the time, because you just hated him for stealing Pokemon. You're like, how could you steal all these Pokemon? Well, after many years of speculation, an online event for Heart Gold and Soul Silver revealed that in fact the red-headed man, or boy, was in fact the son of Giovanni, who is the leader of Team Rocket. If you didn't know, there's a picture of him now. This is my number one fact simply because it bugged me so much growing up as a kid. I was like, who the hell is that red-haired guy? Because obviously his name was question mark, question mark, question mark. So you have no idea anything about him, and you got to name him, which was a bit weird. It's like, oh, there's Poophead. But really, when I found this out, I was so amazed and so relieved. I was like, oh, so that's what he was. So yeah, red-headed man is actually Giovanni's son. We still don't know his name. Like I said, I called him Poop Brains, I think, when I was little. I was like, how could you say that? But yeah, that's my number one fact. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.